Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Let's return now to the politics of the day and bring in Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg. On this draft bill to the superannuation tax changes, Senator Bragg, the Treasurer says if the coalition's going to oppose them, they should come up with their own commensurate budget improvements. Would that strengthen your argument?
Well, good afternoon, Kieran. Well, the first thing we would do would be to stop all the new spending that the Treasurer locked into the last budget, which is about $50 billion over the forward estimates. If you stop spending, that means you don't need to cut back on other things. And this tax increase on superannuation holders, we think is very unfair and probably impossible to implement anyway.
Impossible? Why is that when you've got a concessional rate of 15% on earnings for superannuation balances up to $3 million? They're saying they'll simply change that. Still concessional, but a 30% rate for balances over $3 million. Why is that hard to implement?
Well, we've never had the concept of unrealised gains in our tax or accounting arrangements before, Kieran. And the idea that you'd have to sell a farm or sell an asset without there being any gain booked is nonsensical. And I don't think that that proposal will ever seriously be legislated because it will just be a nightmare.
When you look at the way that the superannuation balances at the higher end have grown, the Treasurer has pointed out that those with over $50 million in their super fund has gone from 78 to 107. Those with over $100 million has gone from 17 to 28. At that higher end, do you see the argument that that's not what the superannuation system was intended to be?
And I think we're up for a proper debate about the future of super, how that relates to housing, aged care, a whole lot of other factors, because Labor's policy is always to hermetically seal all the money into the super funds rather than look at what individuals need in aged care or particularly first home buyers who may actually be better off having access to their own money for a home. So we are always wanting to see more flexibility in relation to super rather than it being hermetically sealed.
On The Voice, 11 days to go, do you think that it's all done and dusted? I know that you've obviously been supportive of the idea of a voice to Parliament, but it looks, according to the polls, albeit the bottomed out today according to the Essential poll, but broadly it looks like it's all over, doesn't it?
I think it's going to be very difficult, and I said some months ago that I thought that New South Wales was looking very difficult and that the proposal should have been recalibrated, because going to a referendum without bipartisan support and without an exposure draft bill, for example, has meant that it's been very easy for a scare campaign to be run. It has meant that it was always going to be, just based on the history of the country, very hard to see a referendum be accepted and adopted by the people.
Yeah, it is very hard indeed, even harder now, according to the polls over the last couple of months. Senator Bragg, thank you. We'll talk to you soon after the break.